Yeah, he won't even tell me. Maybe he forgets, but at one point he knew how many times and he wouldn't tell me.
Every single wedding. I've never tasted it. It sounds deplorable,
It does sound
but
gross.
it's like a main dish at all of their weddings.
He would put his registration in his Bible so that when he pulled it out of the glove box, they would see his Bible. Like, we weren't dating but we
were sneaking around.
Yeah.
No, that sounds terrible.
Well, it's not true. It's evil and you're not going. And he's like, no, I'm actually going.
I'm just the passenger princess and I'll let Josh take care of the problems. Or when am I there to support him?
He was in a coma for weeks.
Got in it and we were like, well, what do? We didn't know what to do. We were so stunned. And guys have egos, and that can be a good thing. Like, you can pump him up and he can have a really good day at work because he knows that you're at home and you're proud of him and his hard work. And
he couldn't see the text. He tried to get Verizon to give him transcripts, but they wouldn't.
The part that makes it romantic is the struggle or the trial. Thank you to our sponsor, Voetberg Music Academy. Bring the joy of music into your home in 2025 with the Voetberg Music Academy's song-based by ear method.
Instead of learning music in isolation, VoetbergMusicAcademy.com encourages families to learn together.
In fact, with our code HOMEMAKER20, you can get 20% off of your children learning piano, guitar, mandolin, violin, or ukulele for less than $40 a month.
Yep. Say goodbye to budgeting hundreds of dollars a month for just one child to take lessons.
On top of that, the Voetberg method provides community with thousands of other like-minded Christian families to celebrate with and learn from. Students are given accountability, performance opportunities. They have seasonal challenges. Like this summer, they did the 6 songs of summer, and this Christmas time, it was the Jingle Jam Challenge. Live feedback from their instructor and printables to help them stay on track.
The Voetberg method approaches music differently, and instead of teaching theory, note reading, and tedious technical skills first, they skip straight to giving students a love of music so that they can't wait to sit down to practice.
With by-ear training and song-based learning, students see immediate results, and what makes it even better, they can earn visual reminders of their hard work with the Voetberg method's rank system that mails badges and pins right to your doorstep. It's really a 3D experience.
Use our code HOMEMAKER20 to get 20% off every month your family is enrolled and learn music in a way that sticks.
Are we both sitting here in long denim skirts?
Well, you know what? I'm tired of my fat knees showing on the podcast, so here we are.
I literally wear this for podcasting and pretty much that's it. I just get sick of the fabric all around my ankles when I'm trying to do mom stuff.
Oh, I know, and you walk and it sounds like a freight train.
Well,
that one doesn't. This one
awesome.
does.
I should see if I can. This is like an old school skirt, but it's made out of
It's
a t-shirt fabric, so
like
it looks
terry.
denim.
Yeah,
it looks denim, but it's not. It's super comfy.
This skirt is super comfortable, but it does whoosh whoosh when you walk, which whatever.
Yeah, I'm not pushing the skirt, but I will link this. It's a 14-16 girls. Me and Ivani have the same matching ones, and oh my goodness, we were having so much fun with them. We wear them to church, and she just loves it, and she gets compliments. Oh, you guys match, and anyway.
And I can't tell you how much joy this hot pink. It's been ages since I've worn hot pink. Why is that? I don't know, but
because it's a summertime color, maybe. And Valentine's.
This
color.
will cure your seasonal depression if you get within 10 yards. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But it has brought me much joy.
I am thinking about reaching for my sunglasses over here. But I told her we'll be very on brand. One, this is kind of our Valentine's episode, even though Valentine's was already. And also, I'm more of a pale pink girl. She's more of a hot pink girl. This works out great.
I didn't know I was a hot pink girl until I like bright colors, so that's no secret. But
I look better in hot pink than pale pink, but when does that ever stop me? Yeah. So we thought it would be fun today to chit-chat, go down memory lane a little bit, if you will, talk about our dating years. We have a lot of fun stories to tell. And also, whenever we take the time to sit down, set up the microphones, and record a podcast, we want you to come away from it with a takeaway of some kind. We want it to be uplifting or just like a sidekick podcast while you're doing your housework. I was going to say homework, but your housework or whatever. So we're going to also have some life lessons thrown in that we've learned through those stories. Or, we both have 11 and 12-year-old marriages now. So it's been a while. And I think it's good sometimes to look back on those beginning years. And it almost makes me appreciate my husband more for like where he's come from. And oh my goodness, I love him way more now than that kid back then kind of thing, which you never thought was possible.
It's different.
Yeah. Which you never thought was possible when you were, a teenager. But just a little backstory. We both dated young. Jana much more young than I did. And we both got married. When I say young, like Josh was 17, I was 18, we were dating. You guys were
14 and 15.
You weren't
we weren't dating, but we
We're sneaking around.
Yeah.
No, that sounds terrible.
Well, it's not true.
Yeah. Cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah.
And then we all got married in our 20s, right? Josh was 19 yet, but
We were 20 and 21.
okay. Yeah, and we both bought our husbands bought houses right before we got married. Is that how it was for you?
We bought our house together. We were
Okay.
engaged.
Okay, and Josh bought our house, and then he proposed that evening. So anyway, that's kind of like the framework. We both dated. Yeah, that's kind of how the timeline.
We never
kind of
really,
went.
either of us officially dated anyone else.
Oh yeah, we don't really have exes in our past too
No.
much. I mean, can you call little middle school things or whatever?
No.
Anyway, so some of these things might sound. We'll try to listen to our stories through maybe a non-Mennonite culture's ears, just so we can fill in any gaps or questions you might have. But it's going to be a little hard sometimes because we just know the experiences we lived, and this is all we know. We've been Mennonite our entire lives, and some things that we did are just like normal.
Yeah.
That everybody does.
I would say my story's pretty normal. I don't know.
But sometimes you don't know what's normal until somebody tells you that's not normal.
I guess.
But anyway, before we get into it, let's do our little. We still haven't gotten to hear back from them what they would like us to call it, but our little what?
Splash of joy. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but probably like, yeah, we know. But hang lights in your living space, in your kitchen space. I have them wrapped around the ceiling of my kitchen, and I just love them in the wintertime. But then there comes a point in the spring where I'm like, okay, we're done with those now. And you put them away. And I think that's the key, is if you leave them up all the time, they're not special anymore. So take them down in the spring and then put them back up when the days start getting longer. Also, I have colorful string lights in my boys' bedrooms around their window. And that just, I don't know, they don't say too much about it. I think they like it, but I like it. When I walk in there, it just looks festive and cheerful and just a little bit of light, even if the lights are off, you know? So it kind of doubles as a nightlight. So the last time I talked about bringing nature into your home, and this time I'm saying bring light into your home.
There you go. For myself, I love having a Christmas tree, and so that goes down. It's always like so sad.
Yeah.
But I did notice that when I make the bed and like tidy up my room, like it has the potential of looking like a hotel space if I clean it up and make the bed and everything, and then turn off all the lights except for I have a black wrought iron floor lamp that I'll just turn on, and every time I walk in there to put laundry away or like whatever, it just feels so good. So yeah, turning on the little lights, as they say.
Yeah.
It just creates a cozy ambiance, especially in these, like, I know spring is almost here. Like, it's almost March now, but
That's hard to believe.
Yeah. There are a few things that I touch absolutely every day: my Pebble ice machine, my stick vacuum, and my Wild deodorant, just to name a few. Today's podcast is sponsored by Wild. I absolutely love their products. They contain no single-use plastic, and they come in premium reusable cases with compostable refills. I particularly love their deodorant, but they have chapsticks and body washes as well. Wild is powered by plants. There's no aluminum salts, parabens, or sulfates, and all of their formulas are certified vegan and cruelty-free. They have a very flexible subscription service, and I absolutely love refilling my cases when my new scents come in. I've been using Wild for a long time now, so I've been able to try a lot of their scents, but I have to say one of my favorites is their coconut and vanilla, and their formula needs to get more hype. The feel of it going on your skin is just perfect. It's not too sticky, but it's also not too hard that it hurts going on. And I love how their cases can really showcase your personality. I mean, it's so fun to open my makeup bag and see my beautiful deodorant looking up at me. Right now, they actually have a cream with red hearts and a white with black hearts case exclusively for February and Valentine's Day. It's available in their deodorant, their body wash, and their lip balm. Their Love Potion scent is a sweet blend of juicy strawberries, fresh cream, and a hint of champagne. You'll feel fresh and confident all day with their 24-hour protection and lasting effectiveness. I didn't even mention that yet. Yes, guys, this stuff works. And right now, for a limited time, you can get 20% off of all your Wild products when you use our code HoneyMHomemaker20. So I'm not sure what deodorant you've been using lately, but I highly suggest if you're looking to switch it up that you try out Wild. Again, just go to wearewild.com and use the code HoneyMHomemaker20 to get 20% off of your order.
So Eric and I met freshman year of high school, and I would say our personalities were pretty much like instantly magnetic. Like we just were like, not in a weird way. Okay.
It's not weird. It's just spicy.
It's not spicy. Our personalities were magnetic. We just clicked. And I would say pretty instantly we both had feelings of like, I think I like this person. It didn't take long at all. We were both Berg holders, which is weird. We both were not members, but we both went to the same church, not church, but the same conference. So we had very similar church background. Somebody said that we cannot be together because we were too much the same. So I do think we have similar personalities. We're both outgoing. We both are fun-loving. We both sometimes lack a filter. I don't know.
You guys are going to be very entertaining old folks.
Yeah, I know. It's a little scary. But we were just attracted to each other for many reasons. But we were 14 and 15, had 4 more years of high school, and then 2 years before we were old enough to get married. So we started very young, and I would say our relationship did grow at a very appropriate pace. I mean, it had to, but I don't feel like we rushed anything physically or otherwise. Like we grew up together, really. And I don't know if there is a point here, but we were very young, I'll put it that way. And we went through some, high school can be hard. I mean, my high school experience was pretty good, but it's just, there's a lot of things that come up in high school. You're figuring out what you believe. You're figuring out why you believe what you believe, what that looks like in your life.
Coming of age could be very awkward, and you're doing
it together. Yeah, and we were doing
it
together. I mean, I changed a lot in high school.
I almost feel like your teenage years, you throw all these people together into maybe a high school or whatever and just like stir it all up, and you don't know who's going to come out what, like who's going to decide to do this, like who's going to be the missionary, who's going to be the businessman, who's going to leave in the faith and every,
Yeah, sometimes
it's anybody's guess sometimes.
Yeah. And I think high school was a good place for us to get to know each other. It was a safe environment.
Chaperones.
Yeah. Like, I was not impressed with his grades, but I got to know his personality in high school, and I got to know his work ethic because so our school that we went to, we got out at 1 o'clock on Fridays. So as if Monday through Friday during the day was not enough time together, I got a job at this produce stand at the farmer's market that was only on Friday. So I would work from 2 to 10 or 2 to 9 or whatever every Friday. And a couple of us from school worked there. And Eric actually lived right up the hill from this farmer's market. So he's like, well, I think I'm going to work there too. So we were co-workers, and we would connive to get our breaks together. So we would take
like your supper break.
Yeah, we would have 30 minutes walking around Green Dragon, sharing. We had like no money. We were working for $5.75 an hour was my starting rate.
Drinking the same Coke out of the same straw. Gasp.
Yeah, we actually held hands for the first time on our break at Green Dragon. So
romantic.
Anyway, just
the waft of cabbage was in the air.
Celery. I still you don't think celery has a scent until you work with it all day? Oh.
And that's when you knew it was true love.
Yeah, but it was good. Like, I got to see him working, and I think that's, work ethic is important, and he demonstrated that he was willing to take, and it was I had a pretty nice job at the produce stand. I was checkout girl, doing the celery stocking, but he was like going through rotten produce, smashing boxes in the dumpster, hand carting these big stacks of boxes in and out, freezing cold weather, sloppy weather, wet weather, snowy weather, whatever. But he did it, I mean, I think for the money, but also he could have had another job, but he picked that one because that's where I was every Friday night.
Oh, so
and it
sweet.
Was just good memories. I mean, it was good times.
And if you're wondering why at a produce stand there was a designated celery girl, you have not been to Lancaster County. Lancaster County is like the mecca of celery. Like, I think, is it the Amish wedding meals? They have cream celery at every single wedding. I've never tasted it. It sounds deplorable,
it does sound
but
gross.
It's like a main dish at all of their weddings.
I've never thought about it, that we did have a really ginormous celery display.
Yeah.
I mean, with one person was on the celery.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would write him notes on receipt paper, like register tape. Anyway.
Yeah. So Josh and I asked, he just came around to our youth group. I think this speaks a lot. I didn't even know this about him till maybe a year into dating, but he was in one youth group that was just a bunch of bad eggs, like people with no aim or goals or taking anything seriously in life. I don't know if they did anything terrible. Like, he doesn't have a lot of baggage or anything from those years, or half a year. He was with that youth group for about half a year, and then he came to my youth group where I was. He had a friend that was in our youth group. And so I just always admired him for making the choice to start all over again. He said nobody liked him for the first couple months until they got to know him. Like, he was just the new kid and everything. Yeah, Josh is not shy, and he soon made friends and everything. But I asked, when did you notice me from all the other girls? Like, there was plenty of other girls too. And he's like, well, I mean, besides like, you know, you just like who you like off of looks. Looks are subjective, as they say, whatever. But he said he really actually started taking me like seriously when we're having a discussion in a maxi van driving through the city to do, it was a missions thing or whatever. Anyway, I don't even know what we said or what we talked about. He can't remember either, but he started to realize that. And I guess what I was saying just really is exactly how he was feeling at the time. It's just men don't know how to phrase, or boys don't know how to phrase exactly what they mean to say, maybe as well as girls do. And it just got me thinking how they say that you are the sum of like your closest friends, but also you attract like people as well. So if you want to be around good, upstanding people and be friends with those people, if you want to be friends with high caliber people, you also have to be a high caliber person, because as you grow into an adult, how many charity case friends can you take with you? You know what I mean? You have to have times of giving and taking, whether that's with your friends or with your spouse. And I was like, wow, I try to be very conscious of that with my friends, like be a good support system to them so that if I ever need it, hopefully I'll never need it, right? You know, but in the times where you need it, they're there for you. And I'm like, when do I apply that to my marriage? I feel like so often I'm like, well, I'm just the passenger princess and I'll let Josh take care of the problems. But when am I there to support him? You know, I at one point attracted him into my life, and of course we're going to be there forever together, but we should not just assume that and just be like, well, he's stuck with me now. You know, I think it's a good reminder for us, if we are married, to make sure you're a good companion, a good friend to your spouse, because guy friendships are kind of hard. I mean, Josh has a few really close guy friends, but probably you are your husband's best friend. And if you're always the one with problems all the time and you're sucking the energy out of, you know, the room or your marriage or whatever, it's going to be really hard on them. So I think just it's something I want to do better at in 2025 too, just to be like upbeat and positive more, I guess, and if I have a problem, maybe just sit on it a little bit and see if the problem goes away, because 95% of the time it does. Like I don't always have to be burdening him with my little problems that are big in the moment, but yeah, so that just kind of was a reflection that I had of us first meeting. And I know sometimes this is the stereotype, and it's been like this in our marriage too, where you feel like you have to put in more of that creative effort. But I feel like if you bring it up, or like, hey, should we pray every evening when we do this? Or should we go through this book together? Or here's these little John Deloney intimacy couples cards or whatever. Let's read a couple of those a night. Oftentimes they'll jump right on board, and marriage can be a sacrifice sometimes. Don't feel like you have to just wait for your husband to come up with the ideas. Like you can be the initiator too and come up with ways to almost put connection on autopilot in some ways. Just, I don't know. I feel like Josh and I should be going. Right now we're doing the John Deloney cards, but I would like to also do maybe a Bible study together. Or this past year we both went through the New Testament together at the same time. So that was kind of fun. Gave us some things to talk about. But yeah.
Did you have devotions together when you were dating?
That was going to be another point later on. Yeah.
Like, is that a Mennonite thing or a Christian thing?
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because I don't know. Basically, how and do Mennonites even do this anymore?
I don't know. We're just like, we didn't have to, but like everyone did. Like it was expected that you would go through a book together, or like have some sort of devotional time together on your dates, like once a weekend.
I need to ask my little sister. She's 10 years younger. I should ask her if they did. But yeah, basically the protocol, there's no rules or anything like that. We don't do chaperones unless you would want to have a chaperone. If you didn't trust yourself or something, you could, I'm sure, double date only or something like that. For Josh and I, we just decided that we're not going to date until I would graduated from high school, just because we're like, we're not going to want to or be able to get married for at least 2 years. We might as well like slow things down a little bit. And so our choice was just to do a lot of double dating and youth group stuff.
And besides our 30-minute, sometimes they were longer than 30 minutes. I am sorry, Karen and Carmelo, but sometimes they were longer than 30 minutes.
Your breaks.
Our 30-minute breaks on Friday nights, we didn't have any alone dates until we were graduated either.
That was a long time for you. 9th grade through 12th grade.
Yeah, so we did a lot of like group stuff and but no like dates until.
Yeah, I only had that for about 6 months. But once you're like officially dating and stuff, often people would, I'm going to say in past tense because I don't know what it's like now, but back in our day, you would have like a devotional time or something, probably Sunday nights.
Yeah.
I don't know. We often did youth group Saturday night, and then Sunday night we would, you know, still go play volleyball or something, and then go back a little bit early, and from like 10 to 11 just hang out in the olden days. They called them parlors, but like just in the living room or wherever. And you know, you're in private, you can talk.
Sorry, interrupted. We hardly ever had a whole evening, even when we were technically dating, we hardly ever had a whole evening just us. We would always hang out with friends and then have an hour, a couple hours, one-on-one or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, we were so poor, so we went out to eat just us two, like, every
rarely.
other month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here and there.
We wanted to hang out with our friends, so
Yeah.
we did a lot of group stuff.
And you got to drive together in the car to places and stuff, and it was like date stuff too. And yeah, when you're in it for the long haul, knowing you can't, like, this is not what I want for my kids. I would love if my kids waited till they were a little bit older so they didn't have to drag it out like that. But I think it was good to, like, I mean, hey, you got to know your, like they say, date for a year so that you can see them in all the seasons.
Yes,
and stuff. We got to do that a couple times around, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily.
No,
but picking your spouse at 15 might not be a great recommendation, but it worked out.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything really because, I mean, what are you going to change?
Yeah, but we digress. Basically, yeah, from 10 to 11, we would usually kind of have our little alone time, sit, talk, kind of have more heart. We often had like a book we went through, and then Josh would leave at 11 because, how was that? Well, he always had to be home by 11 because of his parents and also the state laws. But that's only till you're 18. Yeah,
Eric actually usually left at 11:30, I think, that because my parents were like he should be home by 12.
Okay.
So I think, but he often fell asleep too, which is totally lame.
Yeah, but later on, Josh left at 11 because I still had to teach school the next day, and I just needed my sleep. So we never had really late dates or anything like that. But I would say that was the typical people hang out. They just had a formal date, devotional time.
Yeah.
You know, once a weekend, whatever. And yeah, I know we don't do that anymore.
I know.
But like we do like a little family story time, but it's nothing edifying to me because it's just like little kid stuff at the supper table. It's for the kids' sake, not for me and Josh. Yeah, and we both have our own personal devotions and read the Bible, but we don't do that often together. But I did look up something I want to do better at, which we've had seasons of this where we did really well and then seasons where not so much, but pray together every night because I was looking up some stats and it's this is a 1997 study, but it was 0.001 of couples who pray together daily divorce.
Wow. And the
other stat is in the mainstream Christian church, divorce is at the same rate as secular. As a secular world. So that's some pretty powerful numbers and stats, even if they are a little bit outdated. I'm sure it's only worse probably. But yeah, it was just a reminder to me that prayer is so powerful. And then I actually looked up an article. It piqued my interest because it said 8 ways that prayer, it was on imom.com. It was imom.com. I saw a list that was 8 ways that prayer as a couple benefits you. And I just wanted to quickly read them off. Prayer keeps you humble in front of God and your spouse. The act of praying hand in hand, focused, quiet, head bowed. Wow, I don't know. I think we just
sounds pretty formal.
Yeah, we pray in bed. It's not that formal, but yeah. It's a reverence. It's hard to be judgmental and argumentative when you're in that stance. It says, prayer removes you from continuing the cycle of hurting each other. I thought that was pretty good. Prayer releases your deepest hurts. And it's like hard to be vulnerable sometimes with those things. But number 4, prayer unites us. Prayer breeds appreciation. When you start to thank God for the things in your life, at some point your spouse is going to come up. Like they just have to, even if you are a little peeved at him at the moment or something. When you show your appreciation for him, he will show it for you, and you will begin to create lists of loves rather than annoyances. Number 6, prayer is an invitation to change. Prayer removes selfishness. Prayer gives you hope. So yeah, if you needed another reason to pray together, there you go. So that's kind of my little sermon to myself because I feel like we fall in and out of that practice pretty much in the last 11 years.
Yeah. I would say we were very sporadic with that too. It hasn't been consistent, but I am encouraged to do it more often after hearing that. So there was one time before, I don't know if we were engaged or not, but we weren't married. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Motorama, but it's a local event. It's like a supercross type deal, like dirt bikes, 4-wheelers in a big arena. And Eric was saying he was going to go to this with some guy friends. And I had preconceived ideas about what this Motorama was like. I heard some stories. I didn't think he should go. I thought it was bad. And he was like, no, I'm going to look at the dirt bikes and watch the races. Like, chill. I'm going. And I'm like, you are not going. And I was probably real bratty about it. I was like, no, you're not going to go because of this and this and this. And you know, there's girls there and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I think I was just insecure, whatever. I don't know. And also, I think I had ideas in my head about what it was like. And it really, I'm sure there were some parts of the event that were like I thought, but I was picturing like the whole thing just like raunchy. And that's not how it is. I mean, it is raunchy because it's disgusting and stinky because it's indoor 4-wheelers and dirt bikes, and I went one time and it was terrible, and I had so much anxiety because Eric was racing in it and I was just sure he was gonna die. And then one year he did almost die. And I wasn't there. I was at home with our newborn. But anyway, that's another story. Anyway, so I said, you're not going to this Motorama. It's evil and you're not going. And he's like, no, I'm actually going. And so we were fighting about this. And I was at work. And I remember I got to thinking about it. It was like, do you not trust him? Like, what is your deal? Why are you making such a big deal about this? He's a grown adult. If he wants to go to this event with his guy friends and watch dirt bikes, like, who are you to say he shouldn't go? And if you keep acting like this, he might just dump you. I don't know if I had that thought, but I remember being like, okay, why are you feeling like this? And I was like, I guess I feel.
Was he going with like a bad group of friends?
No, I don't remember. No,
okay.
It wasn't that. But I said to myself, you do trust him, so why do you care if he goes? Well, I guess I don't care if that's why don't want him to go. So I remember I got some cash, and I remember I was very poor. I don't know how much money, like a decent amount of money, put it in a bank envelope, and I think I wrote on it like, have fun at Motorama or something, and just kind of like gave him my blessing to go. And apparently it meant something to me, because that story sticks in my mind of like, just relax, and if you trust him, you trust him. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
So
it's very true. And like, you can't be, it's like I often say, you can't be the mom. Like,
right,
they need
exactly.
to govern themselves.
Yeah, and I don't remember that anything bad happened. So
yeah, it really puts it in perspective now that I have a daughter too, just like the qualities I want her to look for in a
yeah,
guy.
for sure.
But I would say Josh and I's dating years were pretty like fun, easygoing. One traumatic thing that did happen, we knew each other for maybe 6 months, and we were headed to a volleyball tournament, and we were at a really bad intersection that since then they've put in is it a light or a stop sign? I can't remember which. But he pulled out, the sun was glaring, and he did not see this big Jeep Wrangler long extended thing coming in the turning lane, and he T-boned them, or they T-boned us. And my airbag, I was with him because we were headed to the volleyball tournament. The airbag was like, pow, and like hit me in the head. There was dust flying everywhere, and everything was like slow motion. And the car is just spinning, and like your ears are ringing. I don't know if that's from the impact of the crash or of I'm guessing the airbag. Yeah, and there's just like dust from the airbag everywhere, and we're just like, shh, going in a slow circle in his Jetta. I can remember it like yesterday. And he was so rattled. I'd never seen like confident Josh not confident anymore. He felt so, like, I think he would have felt rattled either way, obviously, because like all these people came pouring out of the Jeep. It was a bunch of adults who didn't really speak English or anything, so that made it even more stressful. And the cops came, and it was a big, main, busy road. It was just really dramatic. And I don't remember much. You're kind of stunned and stuff, but his dad eventually came over with Josh had 2 vehicles at the time, an old beat-up truck. His dad brought the beat-up truck over, and we got in it, and we were like, well, what do? We didn't know what to do. We were so stunned. We're like, I guess we're going to be sore tomorrow anyway, but we're both fine, we think. Like, we think we're fine. Let's just go to the volleyball tournament and play volleyball. So that's what we did. But on the way there, he was just like shaking all over. And I had never seen this side of him before. I think that was like the first real adversity. And I was just like so gracious to him. Of course you didn't try it. And like, by all means, like, I was trying to comfort him, make him feel better. And I had to think, I think we've had a close call here or there in the past in ways that was out of either of our control, but Josh is the driver. I'm the passenger princess in our relationship for the most part. And when we have a close call, or like that light was pink or whatever, I'll just be like quick to like assume, of course he wants to hurt our family. Of course he doesn't care about us. Of course he just wants to get there. Or anyway, I'm like, I need to take some of that grace I had for him back then when we had a major accident, and just be a little more understanding that, okay, he's a guy. He's going to make wrong turns sometime. We're going to miss our exit sometimes because I'm just a great storyteller, Anyway, so that was like the first time we had something a little bit hard in our relationship. And then I feel like the rubber really hit the road, once we got married and had kids and started having to go through hard things. But it's just a reminder to look at your wedding vows that you said, if you maybe wrote your own, but I feel like a lot of people probably, in addition to writing their own, had the church's sanctioned vows or whatever, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. And you don't think about the weight of those words. I mean, you try to. I remember trying to. Yes, okay, yes. When Josh has a runny nose, I'll still love him. That's not always what sickness means. It's sometimes sickness of your children, or scary illnesses and stuff like that, or for richer or for poorer. I heard somebody say the best money advice is to marry the right partner. I'm like, wow, you don't think about that when you're dating either. Mm-hmm. Like, are they proven to be responsible with money? Are they hard workers, good work ethic? Are they honest? Are they going to be trying to hide things from behind your back? Do they have any vices or addictions and stuff that's going to come to play, because I think the top marriage problems are from money, and I think there's one other one, I can't remember what it is, but money is right up at the top there. So yeah, it's a serious weight, but I think it's also like, it can be scary to look at your wedding vows, but it's also exciting, like, oh yeah, we promised this to each other, and it's just something that's good to revisit once in a while. I actually had them printed out in a big giant 36 by 48 wall mural thing in our bedroom at our first house, and that was cool to see every day. But yeah, after a while it kind of loses its meaning because you're seeing it all the time.
You were talking about choosing a partner and how it can be challenging and different things to look for. Well, I remember we were at a point in our relationship where I kind of had a decision to make. We weren't dating yet, but pretty soon we were going to be allowed to date, and we're definitely a couple, but I had a decision to make, all things said. And I remember talking to some of my guy friends about this.
Wait, let me guess the situation. You had, because there was other guys that were interested in you and you had to pick one.
More or less.
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
I don't know.
Sounds like I'm reading between the lines for us all.
You know, we liked each other for a couple years. So did I want to actually date this guy, or was this just a high school fling? And I remember talking to some of my guy friends and kind of just like, I don't know if I was necessarily asking their advice, but they kind of knew the situation. And they're like, Jana, will tell you this. Eric is who he is when you're not around. Like, Eric is Eric. He's what you see is what you get. And sometimes when you're in that like new love, you don't really know if they're putting on a front for you or if they really are that person. And so that was really meaningful to hear from someone that I really trusted and respected, that he's not faking it for me. This is who he is. And yeah, he's not perfect by any means, but he's real. And really, what more can you ask for out of someone? It's the most comforting
thing you can hear.
Yeah, it really was like just confirmation that, yeah, this is the guy that I want to move forward with.
I think another takeaway could be to write the card, write the letter, do the little sappy thing. I remember when Josh and I, we were together for a year. It was a good solid, no, it was almost 2 years. And he went away on mission work for a month to Texas to clean up from wildfires and stuff. And we were going to be separated now for a whole entire month. Which was the second time we'd been separated. He had left for 3 weeks right after he asked me out, but I didn't really know what it was like to have a boyfriend in person, so it just felt like all exciting and new, and it wasn't that hard. But it was kind of hard when he left for an entire month. And yeah, again, you have to decide, do you trust them or not? And that wasn't really a problem. I knew he was, like, I knew him more at that point and everything. But we would write notes to each other, and like, not just notes, like, I try not to go back and read them because they will give me hives. Like, oh, so sappy and disgusting. But I just remember in there, like, we would write things, like specific things that we liked or admired about each other. And like, now to say those things out loud, like, that's one of Josh's words. Like, words are words of affirmation. Words of affirmation is like his main love language. And it's so hard for me to say in person, but I need to work on that. But also, what better way than just to leave a little note or write a card? You know, Valentine's just was. Did you do a card, or have you been married 15 years and that's just not something you do anymore? You know, not that that's something you have to do, but it's such an easy little tangible thing you can do. And guys have egos, and that can be a good thing. Like, you can pump him up and he can have a really good day at work because he knows that you're at home and you're proud of him and his hard work and him getting up at 5 a.m. or whatever, or his drive and all
There's
of that.
There's nothing like a handwritten note.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I have not boxes, but a box full of notes from Eric because, again, we were high school sweethearts, so what are you going to do in a boring history class? Well, write a love letter to your boyfriend.
Exactly. But we would all the time in the world.
We would write notes all the time because we were sitting at a desk with pencil and paper. And yeah, I should go back and read them because, I don't know, that was definitely a way that we got to know each other and communicated a lot because we couldn't just talk in school all the time. Yeah. We could look at each other, but we couldn't talk a lot. So we would write to each other, and it was good.
And if there's any like younger sister type people who are listening to our channel and you are dating, like, don't keep it all online. Don't have it all in text. Like, have some actual handwritten notes that you can save, and maybe your kids will find them someday and, oh my goodness, this is so sappy and like gushy, mushy, whatever, but that's how it's supposed to be.
I can't imagine dating in this age of
technology.
Like, I didn't have a smartphone until I was married. And we would text, and we got in trouble for texting too much. My dad made a spreadsheet and highlighted all the times when I was texting when I shouldn't have been. Like, he had this whole thing of, he couldn't see the text. He tried to get Verizon to give him transcripts when they wouldn't. But he could see, like, text received, sent, and the timestamps. So he had, like, this spreadsheet, and he would highlight, like, this was 9 p.m. What were you doing? This is 9 p.m. on a school night. You should have been texting. Or that you were supposed to be working at this time and you were texting, you know, like whatever. And anyway, like if we would have had Snapchat or WhatsApp.
I know.
Like, or Facebook even. I didn't even have Facebook till I graduated.
I just think of my lack of self-discipline at that age.
Oh, I know. It would have been not
But if it wasn't an option, it wasn't happening. But now there's so many things that are options. So,
yeah, just, oh, be careful. I don't know. I just.
You know, every generation, every age, though, has their struggles and stuff. And it might not just be harder. It might just be different when we have teenagers. I don't know. That's what I like to tell myself. I don't know.
Hope.
But yeah, it's definitely it's new challenges that we can't really go to our moms for advice.
Right.
But praise the Lord, we can grow and get more wisdom over the years. And we do have some older friends that we can kind of see how they do it and you know, see how it's going for their children. But yeah, oh my goodness. Well, that was a chatty one. Is there any other stories you want to reminisce over?
The only thing I was thinking of that I was thinking about saying was you had said your accident was your first
adversity, maybe?
Yes, adversity. We had multiple things in our, even before we were dating, like hard things. Our one friend was in a really bad accident. He was in a coma for weeks, and we would go up and visit him with friends and stuff. And it was just, you know, it was really hard. And then right before we got married, our other friend was in a motorcycle accident. Eric was actually with him. And that was definitely harder for Eric than it was for me because he was right there and like he dealt with guilt, like why him and not me? What could have I done anything to prevent this accident? It was not they were on motorcycles, but it wasn't their fault. It was the other guy's fault. And like what should have he done differently if he would have been going first or last? I don't remember, but I know that was a really hard thing for him to deal with. And then actually Brent was on crutches at our wedding, so it was like a couple months before we got married. And another thing you talked about, something you said made me remember, Eric used to get stopped by the cops all the time. Like
curfew, maybe?
No, like sometimes he was speeding, sometimes he would, I don't know, just nothing terrible, but just like he drove, it was the cars he drew like
attention getting cars.
He drove Volkswagens, but they were like modified and souped up and
loud,
low big wheels and lowered, and
he wasn't blending in.
Not at all. That's why, because he's hardly got stopped since. It was the way he drove too, probably, but he would get stopped like all the time. And he had all these tips and tricks, and if he could throw his dad's name out there, he would put his registration in his Bible so that when he pulled it out of the glove box, they would see his Bible. Like, in his defense, like they
should write a book. My goodness.
Yeah, he won't even tell me. Maybe he forgets, but at one point he knew how many times, and he wouldn't tell me how many specific times, because sometimes he did get out of it. And I think the problem was they had him marked because of the cars he drove, and he wasn't exactly the kind of person that they thought he was just by looking at the vehicle. I mean, there was a little bit of that, but so they had him marked before they even, so they'd find some reason to pull him over, even if it wasn't necessary. Like they would have let
like that was a rolling stop at the stop sign or whatever.
But he ended up losing his license then, shortly after we got married, just because,
No. Yeah. Oh, that's even more of a blow to your ego. You're just young married. And you're supposed to have your act together.
Pretty annoyed.
Yeah. Did you drive him around?
I had to drive him everywhere. Now, he did apply for a work permit so he could drive himself to work, which is a whole nother story. But he thought he had this work permit. Turns out after he got his license back, he realized that it wasn't actually legit. He didn't actually have a work permit.
But that never was a problem?
No, he never got stopped. But he obeyed it. He drove back and forth to work, and I drove everywhere else.
Wow.
So it was rather annoying, and that better not happen again. But
yeah, I would say that can go on the list of adversity.
I would say, yeah.
But I will say, whenever you're watching like a romantic movie or something, the part that makes it romantic is the struggle or the trial, or like nothing is ever smooth. So if you're in a hard pinch in life, or it's rough, just remember, just try to be like, there's nothing, like just cling to your husband in that time and just be together and don't push each other apart. And it's really hard sometimes, because when you feel stressed, it's hard to feel anything else sometimes. You just feel stress. And when your partner's also bouncing stress off of you in the same, because now your cares are his cares and you have a life together, it can be really hard. Sometimes it pushes a wedge between people. So yeah, if you are facing an adverse time, it's just a good reminder to cling to each other, pray together, pray through it together, and yeah, God will pull you through. God's always faithful. So a lot of takeaways from this episode. You can take what you want from that, and hopefully you found it entertaining, enlightening, and yeah, thanks for being here.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.